Alright guys, I'm gonna go ahead and say it, man. And look, I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this, but fuck it. Look, the DLC for Osiris, it needs to be delayed. I mean, it really needs to be delayed. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I love what we got to do last week or a few weeks ago at Bungie. I love the expansion because when you ask me to review this game and ask me to review this DLC, just by itself, a standalone DLC, yes. It's a good DLC. Like, it's a good game. And the storyline is good. And, you know, I enjoyed a lot of the new weapons that were being presented here. But here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. I have to look at the Division real quick, okay? Massive introduced patch 1.4. And one beautiful thing that Massive did is they realized, listen, we needed to work the kinks out of this update before we did anything else. We needed to get this perfect now before we introduce this next DLC, and they go along and end up delaying the DLC to further improve their game. The Division had a terrible launch, but I can tell you right now, I've got so many friends that are jumping back on that train, especially since Destiny 2 has lost its looter shooter vibe that it had in Destiny 1. There's just no incentive to keep playing that in-game content once you play it once. Now, to the subject of the video, should the Osiris DLC be delayed? I think it should. I mean, I think, one, it would make a statement to the community, a big one, that, hey, the devs care about this game. Because if there's one thing I've noticed that is unanimous amongst the Reddit forums, the Bungie forums, and amongst my own videos, is that a lot of people think the Bungie devs just don't care, you know, and you don't need to feel that way. You gotta know your devs care, man. If you don't, I mean, with any game, if you ever feel like your devs don't care, that is a ticking time bomb to see your player base just extinguish itself. And listen, I know that sounds terrible because it's like, you know, they're going to miss out on that revenue source for this Christmas. Here's the thing, the game just launched, okay? And it had a very strong launch. And so in terms of just product rev, the game has done great. We're not even talking about the microtransactions that are occurring within the game and what revenue we might be pulling from that. So I don't think Destiny or Bungie or Activision especially, I don't think anyone's hurting. What I do think is hurting is their credibility. Their credibility right now is hurting. Bungie's credibility is hurting. And despite what I think about the Osiris DLC, because I think it's a very solid DLC, there is still a game here that doesn't offer any type of incentive to play other than maybe once to twice a week. It feels like a mobile game. It feels like I get on there, I check a couple of things like I would on some like Clash of Clans bullshit, and then I go about my day and I don't even play it again. This needs to be the MMORPG in the stars that Destiny 1 tried to be, that we thought Destiny 2 was going to be and improve on even more. And instead, we just have a game that has some MMO aspects, some open worlds that are beautiful open locations, but no incentive to play anything in those worlds, and a PvP system that offers nothing. If there's one thing I know about this community, is that if the devs themselves came out and said, listen, we hear you loud and clear, but more than we hear you loud and clear, let's ante it up a little bit. We're going to delay the DLC. We're going to get this game right. We're going to listen to what needs to be done and take proper feedback, not just from any Joe Blow, but from the people that are part of this community that plays this game regularly, and we're going to make these changes now. That kind of statement would pretty much secure Destiny's future. Maybe not secure it, but it would at least put it a much better leg up than what it is now. Because I know a lot of people that are just saying, fuck it, I'm not buying the DLC. But if you came out and you make that statement, when you do introduce that DLC, I can promise you, man, so many people would jump on board and get that game. A ton of people would. Now, does this fuck up the timeline for what Destiny 2 is supposed to be for the next 2-3 years, however long? Yeah, it does. But you know what? That happens so many times with games. I cannot tell you, I remember the first time I played Final Fantasy, the entire launch was just botched. It was so bad that the game devs came out and said, listen, look, we know the game is not that great. We know that this is a paid monthly game, by the way. It's an MMORPG. So we're going to completely scrap this game. We're sorry, but we cannot continue to bring in these DLCs and expansions because the game is just not what we want it to be. We're going to relaunch it. They relaunched it and they called it Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn. That's just not some special ass name they gave it. That's literally because they went in there and rehashed and redid the entire fucking game and relaunched that bitch. And it's now one of the top MMORPGs today. And yes, it will hurt your numbers up front. And it may even look kind of bad. But at the same time, the core fan base that you'll achieve from doing something like this, Bungie, you can't pass that up. That core fan base is at stake right now. So guys, please be understanding to this video. Don't flame me, man. I'm just a dude that cares about this fucking game. All right, fellas. I appreciate y'all coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.
So let's get